Balake. Where is Balake at?
My name's Blake.
Do you want to go to war, Balake? I'm for real. Aaron.
Aaron is back with the one and only, the lovely, relatable Reese. How's it going, Reese?
Aaron, I've missed you. I said this on the last live. I'm not getting a lot of love.
It's been a long time.
We've got to get together, especially with these calls. I like doing these calls with you.
I'm really glad that we've got another phone call to go through. And so this is, let's intro this. So I think my title of this video on my channel is Scientology Double Agent, another recorded phone call. For those who haven't seen all the earlier phone calls that we've gone through, let's explain how these phone calls came to be and who we're going to be listening to.
Okay, so this is my old mother-in-law, Brenda Argis, and I want to say this was like the first call because there's a point in the call where I say to her, she's at Flag in Florida at this point training and has been gone for, I think, over a year. And so I am saying to her, I wanted to have this conversation with you, but not over the phone, but you've been gone so long. So it's kind of an awkward call. And a lot of it is geared around Huxley, my son, because this was last year around October, November. It was probably about a year ago this call took place. And we were having, it was his first year of junior high, guys. And I was having more issues with him last year at 12 than I am this year at 13. So that's kind of what we were talking about. He was having a lot of like behavioral issues in school and not adjusting well. That's what it's kind of, we're talking about.
And so Brenda, your former mother-in-law, she's a Scientology at the time of this phone call. She's a Scientology official from Kansas City, and she was sent to Clearwater, Florida, for the new command team training evolution that David Miscavige is doing. These people are going to spend years and years and years on this training program. They study all night, they sleep all day. He's got them on a reverse schedule for some reason. Now, help me understand. What was the reason why Brenda, as your former mother-in-law, who was like, you know, she's tucked away in Clearwater, Florida training. She's not really a member of the world at this point. What was the reason for this conversation to occur about Huxley with her?
Well, she was my closest family in Scientology, Brenda. So I shared everything with Brenda. I gave her all my problems, especially about Huxley. She's his grandmother. So the reason for it was even though she was at this training evolution, we would talk pretty regularly, not as often as we did before she left, but I was having issues with Huxley and I was telling her like, we're having trouble in school. And it started to get a little weird and you guys will see that. But, and this is just the beginning of this call, guys. We're not playing the whole call today. We just have this one part. I had to have Aaron take out a little part of the call because there was some personal information about Huxley's school and names and things like that. And I don't feel comfortable sharing that, but it's a weird call. And so Aaron, does that answer your question? Do you think? Like,
yeah, totally.
we were very close. And so I had this isn't weird for me to share this kind of stuff with her.
So it's a conversation you would have normally had with her and you wanted it, but you had no idea she was going to be at Flag for so long. You had no idea she wasn't going to be coming home. And so finally you're just having a conversation with her over the phone.
Yes, because Flag quoted her 8 months. They had to sign some sort of a contract that they would not leave for at least the 8 months. Like they can't get there and go, you told us this, we're leaving. That's what she told me, not in this call, but she had been there already a year at that point. I think it might have even been more than a year. I don't know. But at this point, yeah, it's like, I've been waiting and waiting to talk to you about this. It's unraveling in my head. We're going to have a conversation.
Now, what's interesting is that based on the phone calls that we've already released with Brenda, our understanding, what we believe to be true, is that they sent her away from Flag. They sent her back to Kansas City. We believe they kicked her off of staff. And we also believe that they have now brought her back to Flag for what we can only assume is sec checking.
Yeah, I wouldn't assume that it's to put her back on the program. Do you think?
No way.
No, it's some questioning, I would imagine.
All right, so just let me know whenever you want me to stop this thing, okay?
Sure.
Okay, here we go.
Huxley will have to have some kind of maybe an evaluation or something. I mean, I'm not equipped to even pretend to know what's going on. Yeah. Huh?
So you told me the other day how you feel about Scientology, and I understand that. But you did read Dianetics, and you did have wins on it. And I remember talking to you at length many times about the things that you learned in that book.
Mm-hmm.
No.
I don't believe in any of that, Brenda. I really don't.
You don't believe that he has a reactive mind?
No. No, I really don't. I don't remember much of that book, and I honestly, I think I was probably saying that I understood it, but I didn't understand it. A lot of that didn't make sense to me, and it didn't feel right at the time. And that goes with a lot of auditing and things like that that I've said I enjoyed, that I just felt like I had to make it add up to move forward. But no, I don't. I would not turn to Dianetics in this situation.
Okay, I'm just asking you, just because you said you have no idea.
Right,
what
I
to
don't.
do
That's
or
what I
what it
mean. I
could
said I'm
be.
not pretending to know. I don't know what's going on with him. I think he needs to be probably evaluated by someone that does know, but it's not me. I don't know what I'm going to do with Huxley or how we're going to move forward, but it's not going to stay the way it is. I mean, this isn't going to continue.
Can I ask you a question, Reese? Because obviously what's going through her head is, red alert, red alert, red alert. We're going to have to do anything possible to
can
keep
tell.
Huxley out of the hand of therapists or any mental health professionals. Are you specifically telling her this? Because like you're giving her this problem that you know is going to make her
Gonna
go
make her head
crazy?
explode? Yes, 100%. At this point, yes. Like I had enough. But guys, I do want to preface this with I had been pretending and faking it for quite a few months, and like it was building for me. And I kept telling her, I want to have a conversation when you get home. But then I realized home isn't going to be for years. So at this point, yeah, Erin's exactly right. I was kind of almost baiting her a little bit and say, but I also meant it. I was having real issues with Huxley, and his teachers were like, your kid is a problem in class. Like he wasn't the only one, but he was having behavioral issues first time in junior high. Nothing super terrible, but still it was annoying. So I really was going to reach out to like the school counselor or the school therapist. I wasn't just saying that to get a rise. I really meant that. But I also knew she was going to lose her mind. But I loved it when she was like, so you don't think he has a reactive mind? No. I don't believe any of that. And I don't. It's hilarious. But
Yeah.
anyway, Erin,
All
yeah.
right, here we go.
Who do you think knows what to do?
I think that there are child therapists out there that probably have ways of talking to him that can help. Maybe he's got something going on that he doesn't want to share, that maybe some person that's not biased can talk through with him and see if that helps.
Okay.
And so I don't know if that's
All
the
right.
route we're going to take. I'm just spinning from the behavior that's changed so much in this kid that I'm not even going to act like I know what the hell's going on. I don't know what's going on.
So do you still feel like there was some sort of like, well, I don't want to use Scientology words.
She was going to say we're stimulated.
Something that triggered.
No, I mean, I don't think so. I've looked back and thought about it. I think if something triggered, it's probably something back when Michael and I were together. And
Now, Michael is her son, your ex-husband.
Huxley's dad.
Yeah.
And I know that Michael to this day still hallucinates and has mental issues. And I don't know if it's like a hereditary thing, that maybe he's got something that Michael has going on. I mean, Michael has a serious mental something. So I don't know if it stems back from that. I really couldn't tell you. I don't think that Jeff and I fighting like that caused this. I think it goes back farther, or I think it's maybe not even something that's happened. It may just be something that's in his DNA and his makeup. I don't know. Like I said, I don't know. I really don't. So I think I'm going to let him go to Iowa. Jeff doesn't think I should let him go. I mean, I don't want to like punish Gene Argis over this. And I know that they look forward to him going, but I'm going to let Huxley know this will be your last outing for a long, long time. If he goes, I haven't decided, and I obviously have a week to think about it. It's just unbelievable. I'm fucking shocked. I can't believe this is happening.
I got it.
Do you? So
Would you ever consider him living with us?
no. If he lived with you guys,
Because-
would you apply Scientology to him? I
Well, I
wanted an
wouldn't
answer
do
to that.
anything that was against your wishes.
So you would apply no
mean,
Scientology? Doug would agree to no Scientology?
Well, the only thing I can see is like, like we use the tone scale in dealing with people, and RTRs in dealing with people and using communication. We know how to handle communication and that sort of thing. So yeah, we're trained as people, but it'd be no different than like if you had a therapist. I mean, we would use what we have learned just in communication. I just know how to communicate.
Pause. What was that? What did she just say, everybody? I've never heard from this woman again. I mean, really, I'm laughing, but that upsets me. It upsets me that Aaron knows this and I know this as Scientologists. They brag on this so much. You heard her. It's so confident. I just know how to communicate. I'm just better than the rest. I know how to communicate. Where are you, Brenda? What happened? Like, literally, guys, I never, ever heard from her again. This was my closest person to me in my life besides my blood mother. Where'd you go? That upsets me.
We use the tone scale and we're just good at communication. I don't know. For anyone new to the channels, Scientologists believe they are the experts and authorities on communication and interpersonal relationships and handling people. And the tone scale just refers to the emotional tone scale. I literally don't even know what she means by that. We use the tone scale. How do you use the tone scale? I mean, I could probably come up with it. It's like, it's just something Scientologists say, but it doesn't even mean anything.
I mean, in my upbringing, it did. We talked about this the other day. You didn't really think the tone scale was meaningful at all. Doug and Brenda and the people I was around used it all the time. I was thinking about this in the shower. Right before I got in the shower, I was like, dang, I stink. Like, I was doing a lot of cleaning and I was like, wow, I really need a shower. I was thinking that as I was getting naked. And I thought, that reminded me of even the tone scale. I was taught if a person has any kind of a smell, any kind of body odor, or too much perfume or anything, you're low on the tone scale.
Well, sure. I mean, Scientologists use the tone scale in the sense that they tell you not to be down tone. Don't exhibit grief, don't exhibit anger or antagonism or apathy. But that's not, to my mind, that's not using the tone scale. That's just shaming people for not being in enthusiasm at all times.
Totally. But in a way, to me, it is using it. Like if I was in public as a Scientologist and some dude who just got off the job working construction smelled, I was like automatically thinking, stay away from that person. They're not to be trusted. They're low toned. That's what I was told.
And yet Scientologists also have a rule about not using fragrances. So wrap your head around that one.
Right. You can't use fragrances.
But you can't smell.
You can't be stankin' either way. You got to be just right with like, look at LRH's teeth. You think that man didn't smell? Like he was rotten from the inside out. Anyway, the point is, I think that is a way of using the tone scale. So I feel like they apply it more maybe than you and I did. I don't know. But I think it's funny that she was like, didn't she say like, we're like a therapist? Like, I just know how to communicate. We would use the tone scale. So you would use Scientology. I would have never let Huxley live with them, but I wanted to know the answer to that. I purposely said, would you use Scientology? I knew she couldn't answer that.
Yeah.
There's more to it and we can keep going, but
yeah.
And I'm not saying that you don't. I'm just saying like, I would use communication skills. I would probably do some tutoring, like some, tutoring of his studies and find out things that he doesn't understand. Because to me, and I'm not sure because, I'm not there and I don't see it, but I think part of it could be the second phenomena of the misunderstood word, which, by the way, I just want to point out that schools all over the world study technology. That is not, quote unquote Scientology. It was discovered by Mr. Hubbard, but it's not Scientology.
I have to jump in and tell the viewers
I'm so glad.
What second phenomenon of a misunderstood word means. So Mr. Hubbard, Old Man Hubbs, said there's two phenomena. There's two things that happen when you go past a word you don't understand while you're studying. The first thing that happens is you just go blank and you forget everything that comes after that word. The second phenomena is what happens after that. You go blank and then you individuate from it. So you somehow separate yourself mentally from the thing that you're studying and you consider it to be something different, something you sort of disassociate from. And then you start committing harmful, destructive acts against the greater subject or the area. And then because you're committing these harmful acts, you try to restrain yourself from committing these harmful acts, which causes you to pull in various mental and physical non-optimum conditions like getting sick or getting injured or whatever. And so even something like, I don't know, honestly, getting sick or literally like if you get hurt or anything that happens to you that hurts your mental or physical well-being, on some level, a Scientologist will go, oh no, we have to find what word you went by that you didn't understand. Again, to me, one of the most worthless things that we had to learn as Scientologists was that everything that ever went wrong with you on some level could be traced back to a misunderstood word.
Yeah, or crimes like murderers, thieves.
But even if you do the, false purpose rundown auditing and everything, even if you get behind the murders and the thievery, it still comes back to what you didn't understand before that.
Exactly. Yes.
Yeah.
That's what I'm saying. Like we have, murderers out there that it just stemmed from him not getting a word in school that he was reading.
If only Ted Bundy had used the dictionary, many women would still be alive today.
Why is Dahmer? Why was there even a Jeffrey Dahmer? I don't understand. I never understood that. We don't have to go far into this, but like all of us have passed words we didn't understand. Why are we not all a bunch of Bundys?
I know. It's absurd. But anyway, I mean, the fact that she's even saying this is all the evidence that you need that this is what Scientologists believe.
True.
It's a secular type thing, like the way to happiness, like ministers and, other people use the way to happiness as well. So there is the way to happiness, teaching him, I'm not saying I would do this. I'm just saying these are things that if you would allow it, I would go over the way to happiness with him, make sure he understood it and understood those precepts.
So I have to jump in here. So, Scientology has a little booklet called The Way to Happiness. And again, let's say they were to give a Scientology kid a booklet and they read the booklet and it says, respect your parents. Well, a Scientologist would go, well, he read the chapter on respecting your parents and he's not respecting his parents. We have to go over the chapter and see what word he didn't understand, because clearly if he's not applying what he studied in that chapter, it's just because he didn't understand something in the chapter. So let's just go clear up his misunderstood words, and that will solve it all comes down to not understanding.
Yeah, that's what she's getting at. And the way to happiness pisses me off. She talks about it a lot here. And I always kind of was upset with the way to happiness, even in Scientology, because I thought he's just copying, like none of this he came up with. Do you agree?
Oh,
like,
yeah, no.
Isn't there a precept like brush your teeth?
Yeah, brush your teeth. Take care of yourself.
He didn't do that. I mean, he didn't do that personally.
He didn't brush his own teeth, so I don't know what word he didn't understand.
Exactly. I'm being serious though. Like there's a lot in there that it's like this is not from him, Mr. Hubbard.
Yeah. And literally Scientology tells its people that if you just pass out this booklet, like there was an event where they basically said they solved all crime in Compton by just passing out the Way to Happiness booklet to the gang members.
Yep. That was in remember Leah says there's like 5 main events a year. I think that's correct.
Yeah.
Every single one of those, they talk about that. That's what every event's about, you guys, is we passed out these 50 booklets and all of a sudden this gang broke up and turned themselves in and they're doing their time at Crimenon. And it's just so weird. Like that's what a Scientology event is. We handed out these booklets and now the crime is gone.
Yeah. Crime in Colombia went to 0 thanks to
That's
the
right.
thanks to the free wins handing out way to happiness
Yep.
booklets in like Medellin or whatever.
Did it ever occur to you though in those events? For me, I was like, why is it only in other parts of the world? None of this ever happens in the US. They would talk about it like in Milan, we handed these booklets out and there's no more mafia. And I was like, wait, what? What about the United States? How can we never talk about crime here?
I know it's never like Clearwater, where they have the most like it's never Los Angeles, it's never Hollywood.
Nope.
You
Nope.
know?
It's like nowhere that we could verify. It was always some tiny little town like in Africa that they were like, there's no longer crime. I was like, okay.
That's
It
amazing.
doesn't work here.
We're clearing the planet, I guess.
So weird.
It's not all that. I mean, it's very much along the lines of the 10 Commandments, or even Buddhism talks about, the golden rule of treating others how you would want to be treated and that sort of thing. So, an idea could be like going over the way to happiness with him and taking like a precept a week or something like that. Like one is love and honor your parents. And, he's not doing that.
Right.
So, for instance, I would go over something like that with him. I would find out what he was doing in school, before he went crazy. And, look for his misunderstood words. But I wouldn't, sure, I would love to do self-analysis or TRs with him or whatever. But if you don't give your permission on that, I won't do anything against your wishes. And Doug wouldn't either.
Yeah, I think
so.
Yeah, that's a definite no. I think that at this point, I've tried to. I wanted to have this conversation when you came home, but it's been over a year. I wanted to have this conversation when you came back, but it's been over a year, and it's probably going to be at least another year. I don't have anything good to say.
This was about a year ago that you had this conversation, right?
It was a year. It was coming up because if you guys notice when I said I might not let him go to Iowa and I don't want to punish Jean Argis, that's his great grandma. That's Doug's mother. That was I'm almost positive, like around Thanksgiving. So yeah, that was close to about a year ago.
And those trainees that are on that program that she was on and got kicked off of, I was told recently, those trainees are a year or two away from finishing. There's no way. They just released a new training component that all the people who had already finished the program and have been waiting for the other team members to arrive for the training, they now have to go back and do this new training component themselves. So it's just.
Oh, you didn't tell me that. And see, they've already been there for 2 years. If Brenda was still there, or no, this would be the 3rd year, right?
Yeah. It's batshit crazy.
Yeah. Wow. I did not know that. That's crazy. Say about Scientology. And so it would be an absolute no. And I have to say that I have said no in a lot of different ways. And I feel like I know that it's all you know. So it's like the only way you can offer to help, but it's a no. And at this point, I feel like I don't know if I'm going to get declared or if I just need to disconnect just without getting declared, because I don't want it on my plate anymore. And I'm not going to apply any of it to Huxley. I have had nothing but bad experiences in Scientology. I don't believe that it works. I've seen a lot of things get just pushed under the rug that shouldn't have been. And I think there's a lot of scamming going on there. And I don't believe in it.
Okay. I'm going to pause it real quick. Here's one of the reasons Brenda's getting in so much trouble for the recordings that you've released. She never, it's very clear to me, she never reported to the Scientology authorities that she was connected to someone who admitted to being antagonistic to Scientology. So her connection to you makes her PTS, and she's at flag and she didn't report a PTS situation. That is a high crime.
Correct. Wait till we release the next ones after this. This is all going to be the same call, but if they're broken up, in one of the next calls, I say to her, I'm going to be declared for telling you this stuff, Brenda. It's a high crime in the ethics book. I say that. And she goes, well, you're just telling me. She had to report that. Do you think now she reported me all the time, Erin? She was constantly writing. If I had a headache, it was a miscellaneous report. She was giving stuff to the senior CS and to put in my folder all the time. Do you think she didn't report this because it was a big one. She was already at flag. She would have been taken off and sec checked, and it would have gotten her in more trouble than me. I wasn't an active member.
Oh
Can you
yeah,
give
I
us
mean, it
what
would
that
have.
means? What
mean,
would that have meant for her to report
She
it?
she would have been taken off of the training program and assigned to handle you, which she knew would have been impossible. So when you say she would report you all the time, you mean in Kansas City?
Yes.
Yeah, I mean, I think once she got to flag, it's actually strange to me that she was such a dedicated reporter when she was in Kansas City, but then chose not to report anything once she got to flag. I've got a bit of a hard time reconciling that for myself, but I think clearly she knew that
Yeah, but
she'd
the
be creating more
consequences
trouble
for
for
her, right?
herself. Yeah,
Yes. So
yeah.
are you that shocked that she didn't? I think it was kill or be killed. I mean, she was more thinking, and I would have too. I don't blame Brenda for not reporting it. But now that it's out there in the open, she's probably in quite a bit of trouble for that, I would imagine.
Yeah, I mean, and that's why they realized they can't trust her to be the executive director of the org, which is the position she was in training to be, was the head of the freaking org.
Yeah.
And then it turns out she has this undisclosed long-term PTS situation, and she's leaking sensitive information to you about the training program, which you're leaking to me and I'm leaking to the world. So they're like, how can we trust her? This was under her nose her whole time, and she didn't report it and didn't do anything.
What do you think will come of this then? Like, well, since you just said yourself that was a high crime, do you think she will get?
Nah, she's gonna be in a long-term amends project. Yeah.
Well,
I
okay.
think she's got to be kicked off staff for sure. Long-term amends project. I mean, for her sake, I wish she'd just leave. Like, on the one hand, people might go, "Oh my God, this is terrible. You're going to make her life difficult." It's like, guys, it's easy for her to make her life not difficult. Just leave.
Just walk away from it. That's what, honestly, I still hope for that. But at the same time, I'm pretty hateful of Doug and Brenda Argis right now. I don't really want them in my life, even if they leave. But I really hope they leave. I hope they better their lives by leaving. But
For
they
their own
can't.
sake,
This is
for
the
their son's
point,
sake.
guys. But they
No.
can't. I mean, they have a son that was and daughter-in-law that were high up in the Sea Org, got pregnant, and now have 2 kids in Clearwater, and they're stars in Scientology. They would have to leave them. They would
Who are
never
those
be able
guys?
to see.
Who are they?
Sam and Fiona Argis. Fiona was she was in CMO.
I didn't know them. But hey, anyone who knows anything about Sam Argis or Fiona Argis, email me at growingupinscientology@gmail.com, please.
Good point. But guys, that's Aaron, that's the hard part, is that if they leave, they have to say goodbye to them.
Right.
It'll be interesting.
Yeah.
Yes, this is the mother of Michael Argis. Someone just asked that.
Okay.
I don't believe that Dianetics is accurate. I don't. I think this is stuff I was indoctrinated and manipulated to believe, but I don't think that that's actually true. That's never felt right to me before. And I'm talking about back when I was like 5 and my dad calling me a bank and telling me that I have SP tendencies. Like, all of this stuff I think is a bunch of bullshit.
Bank, by the way, is Scientology slang for the reactive mind.
I think it's mind. I think it's a lot of mind control.
Well, he definitely misapplied Scientology.
Well, I guess other people did too, because at the org, I felt like it was misapplied as well. And I feel like if the tech works, why didn't it work? So I just don't. Yeah, I feel like there's a lot of fear and mind control. And like I said to you the last time, LRH says this and LRH says that. I don't think you get to think for yourself an ounce. I think it's read this and apply it. And this is what LRH says, which is pretty much God. And I don't agree with that. I don't agree with any religion, really, telling you what to think and what to do.
Well, can I ask you something?
Yes.
So I've never known you to feel this way, that you're telling me. Have you been reading things on the internet, or because you used to say things like your mom.
My pearls.
Oh, my pearls, not the internet.
I needed you to do that, Aaron. I'm so glad you did.
Reese, you should watch the Leah Remini show. It's great and all this stuff. And you're like, I'm not going to watch that.
No, and do you remember why I said I wouldn't watch it?
Wait. What happened there? Hold on, let me back it up. Hold on.
No, Reese, you should watch the Leah.
Wait, what?
You've been reading things on the internet, or Like, because you used to say things like your mom would say stuff like, Reese, you should watch the Leah Remini show. It's great and all this stuff. And you're like, I'm not going to watch that.
No, and do you remember why I said I wouldn't watch it? I said it every time, and I still feel this way. I don't need to hear other people's boo-hoo, poor me victim stories. I have plenty of my own. I don't need to hear other people's abuse stories in Scientology, and I still feel that way. I have plenty of my own.
I got it.
So, you know, I feel like in the last year, I've just been doing a lot of thinking about my dad, why that was all okay, why it's still okay. I keep getting these phone calls of, oh my God, we love your dad. And I'm done with it. I don't have any interest in this religion at all. I don't believe that it works. I think it's just a lot of pushing you to believe something that you're kind of forced to believe. I was thinking of all the times that I was like, yeah, I want others to feel what I feel. What do I feel? I don't even know. I'm not sure what just happened. I mean, I know that I was told this from birth, like we need to be quiet during this, or we need to do this. I mean, those are all just things I was told. I don't know that they're true.
Okay.
So I have found that it didn't work for me. I have found that a lot of things were done by force. A lot of things were done by fear, throwing chairs, screaming, Dan on top of me, choking me. I was looking at Linda and Liz and saying, help me. They did nothing. I don't find this to be a church or a religion. There's a lot of abuse that I went through, and I don't consider myself a victim, but I'm not going to put my kid through it. That's all.
Well, if I felt that way, I probably wouldn't want to either. I mean, I wish that I could, you know, tell you that, you know, I mean, I can tell you that, yes, things were done wrong in the past. Clearly, I have my own things and things being done wrong. But it is a very, very new religion. And the good thing about it is, and you may not believe this or whatever, and I get it, but it does, part of it is correction. And a lot of things have been corrected. In 2013, there was a huge correction. There's being correction now, this program that I'm doing now, you know, to run the org standardly. So, I mean, it does have the capacity to change and correct things, and that may not make you feel better at all because you know, had those things happen.
No,
So,
it doesn't. And I've also heard a lot of new releases, and we've changed this and we've done that. That's been going on for a long time. You know, I just don't, it hasn't worked for me. And again, I've got a lot of anger toward people in Scientology, and why would I ever subject my kid to that?
Do you have anger towards me?
Yeah, I would say yes.
Okay. What, is there anything in particular that makes you angry about me, or?
I feel like this comes from my dad too. Family is not first in Scientology, and it never has been. And I've seen him demonstrate that example, and I feel like you demonstrate that example by not being here, you know. And I've been told that you go and it's supposed to be like 8 months, and you're gone for, you know, over a year. And, you know, I feel like you were just gone in LA doing all this training. And I felt this way about what's his name, Dana's husband, that I was like, I feel like I don't think you went to that funeral. And I felt like
he didn't have a funeral.
And I felt like you should have come back for Fred's funeral, but you're tied to that. You're not allowed to. And you're in prison.
She didn't come back for your husband's funeral?
No.
Oh
it was
my
so
God.
hurtful. When he was dying, he was on hospice. And when he was dying in his last hours, she called She asked if she could get off course for a minute to call, and I had her on speaker, and he was in the hospice bed, and she was like, "Can I please say my goodbyes?" And I put the phone up to his ear, and she said her goodbyes. And before that, I don't want to talk about that too much or I'll start crying. But before that, the other funeral I mentioned about Dana, I said Dana's husband. Dana is a non-Scientologist in Iowa, and she is Brenda's sister. It's her youngest sister, and her husband died. And I mean, these people were like, he was in his 50s. They had like a son that was just graduated high school. Like, it was very sad. He died, and she didn't come back. She didn't come back. She said, well, there was no funeral. I don't care if there was a funeral. She didn't come back to be supportive, to be there with her sisters. She has 2 sisters in Iowa, and everybody was there and gathering around her sister, and she didn't come back for it. And I was sickened by that. I was like, this is sick to me. What do you think people think of you in the outside world, that you can't come back for a funeral? My husband died. She didn't come. She didn't come.
Wow. Unbelievable.
Listen, I just feel like you're not allowed, to have your own time. You're not allowed to say, look, somebody's, needs me at home. I'm going to leave and go do this. We both know you're not allowed to do that. And I don't think that's right. I don't think that's something I could ever do. I mean, there are strict rules, and I don't feel like that's okay that families are split up. But my dad did the same thing. I mean, he chose Scientology definitely over his children, and he has told us growing up that Scientology comes first. And I've seen a lot of people demonstrate that. And I think family comes first. I think sometimes families are struggling and they may need your help. I don't feel that way right now. I mean, you've been gone long enough that I kind of just feel like we talk when we can, but I don't sit there going, God, I wish Brenda was here. I mean, I don't feel that way, but sometimes I get upset and think, Doug is lonely. Michael's struggling. Not that I don't know that he could be helped anyway, but I just think it would be more helpful to have Brenda here.
How crazy is it? All these examples you're giving of how Scientologists don't care about family. And when you mention that your son is having trouble in school, her request to you is, would you let him come and live with us instead of you? Like, how gross. She doesn't even think your nuclear family is important. She'd rather take your son away from you to keep him, God forbid he sees a counselor or something.
Yeah, she would rather have him away from me. And what's weird about that us thing, I told my mom that when I got off this phone call with Brenda. I called my mom, and my mom was like, what us? Brenda hasn't even been home for years. Like, what do you even mean?
I had the same thought when she's like, come and live with us. I'm like, you're in Clearwater.
Yeah, where?
Your husband's in Kansas City.
Yeah. But you're absolutely right. You make a very good point there. Yeah. Like, instead of coming up with like a better idea, like what can we do to help? She just wants to take him away from me.
Yeah. She's like, you're ruining him because you're not using Scientology. Send him to us so we can fix him.
I mean, it's a good way of looking at it. That's already, guys, like the wedge she's putting in. You can see the divide that's starting right there. It's like my dad that day. If you're going to behave this way, I'm no longer your father. Right. It's the same thing. If you're going to put him in harm's way by seeing a counselor or not applying Scientology, I'd like him to come live with us.
Yeah. Wow. I love how she's not even pushing back on the things you're saying about how they don't care about family. Like, You know what I mean?
Well, didn't you feel like the Kathy calls were similar?
Yes.
How I was like, I know you got to disconnect. And she was like, well, I would anyway, even if there wasn't a policy on it. Like, they don't push back at all. But to be fair, I mean, I was recording this and they were totally, like their guards were down. They would have never said these things.
It's true.
This is very behind the curtain, guys. This is like as behind the curtain as you can get. They don't talk like this. They won't admit to these things. And if you were questioning them.
If her phone call was being monitored on her end, she would be pushing back just so that she couldn't be accused of agreeing with your enemy lines.
Totally. This would be way more of like a PR thing for them. They would have totally had a song and dance and been way different. This is just when the chips were down.
Yeah.
And I happened to be recording it and they didn't know.
Yeah.
But that's what makes it such a beautiful thing. Aaron and I aren't really that shocked, but this is really good for you people who know nothing or
Yeah.
want to know more. And they won't, the Scientologists would never admit to this stuff.
Yeah. For all you guys under the radar,
Mm.
please record every conversation you have on the phone with any Scientology folks who are trying to handle you. Even
Get that
use
Apple Watch.
use that magical Apple Watch. Even if you don't do anything with those recordings for years from now, just please, please, please. And I've been contacted by many people who've been making many recordings. It's going to be a really
have?
fun. Oh yeah. Yeah,
Did we start a trend? Are people doing it?
absolutely.
Oh my God, you guys. I'm telling you, I see Miscavige changing the rules entirely. You're going to have to check these things at the door. Don't you think? There's no
Maybe.
way. Oh my
Maybe.
God, I love it.
But here's the thing: some of the officials that I'm aware of who have been recorded, it is so the fact that these calls have even been able to be recorded, right, indicates to me Miscavige has not been able to issue orders to everybody telling them stop calling people. Like I'm speaking very generally because I don't want to give anything away. The type of conversations that I'm aware have been recorded are of such a nature that it indicates Miscavige has not been able to tell people, even in the HCOs who handle all the ethics and justice and personnel matters, even in all the Div 6s where the chaplains who are, their job is just to handle Scientologists who are upset with the organization. Orders have not been issued to these people saying, stop having sensitive conversations on the phone.
That's going to change
because
so
how
much.
do you issue that order without raising awareness within the organization of all the SPTV channels on YouTube? How do you explain that order without being like, there's this band of evil SPs that are publishing all of our internal conversations? Like, if they were to issue that order, all these people are going to start watching our videos and be like, oh shit, these guys are telling the truth. That's not,
That's
we
no good.
we might have to rethink some of our stuff.
We can't have that. No truth telling. No truth telling. What was I going to say? How will they? Oh, so they probably already have a list. Not every state is a two-party or a one consent state. Some are two-party states, guys.
Yeah, but what's
So-
Scientology going to do? Take people to court for, like Scientology can't do anything about it. They're not going to
That's true.
sue. What are they going to sue people for? Now we are not encouraging people to record conversations unless they're in states that are one-party consent states. That's because we're not going to advise people to break the law. But Scientology can't do anything about it. They're not going to sue people. That's all I'm saying.
What could be done? Something can be done about it, right?
I don't know, but the damage will already have been done.
I love it.
All right, let's keep going.
And instead, you're there for like another year or more. And I think that's wrong of them to do that. Like, people have families, people have kids. It's not realistic to leave your children for years or your family. It doesn't seem right. But I'm kind of over
Yeah.
that. I mean, I don't really, you just asked me that question and that's what came to mind. I don't really care, honestly. I'm over that. I'm so out of the Scientology world that it doesn't bother me so much anymore. But, I think it bothered me like when Fred died. I thought, she's not even allowed to come back for this.
Well, I apologize because
I don't need you to.
I mean,
That's key, though. I was going to mention this earlier, but it's not that Scientologists like Brenda wouldn't want to have come back. It's that they're not allowed to.
They're not
told,
allowed
you
to.
don't have permission. What you're doing here is so important. We're not giving you permission to leave. Even if what you're doing is just studying a damn course.
That's correct. They are not allowed to. I want to give an example of that. So I told you guys about Sam and Fiona Argis were in the Sea Org. They had a child who's now, I think, 4. And then I don't know much about the new kid because I've been declared, but they had another child around right before I got found out being a double agent. So it was like around Christmas, I think, of last year, guys. This kid's not even a year old yet. When Brendan is in Clearwater. Okay. She's training. Sam and Fiona live in Clearwater. They're all like 5-10 minutes apart from each other. Brenda writes a CSW, which is a course completed staff work. It's you submit that when you want to take time off. That's all it is. It's a request to do something outside, right? Outside of the church.
Yep.
She writes a CSW. Fiona's got the day she's going to have the baby. And Brenda says, I want to take these 5 days off or whatever it was. It might've been a week to go be with her during the birth. Right? She's the grandmother of this child. She's 5 minutes away. No big deal. She's not having to fly to Ohio or something. She wants to leave the training and take a week off to go be with her. We're getting closer and closer to her due date. And this CSW keeps getting rejected and sent back saying, no, you can't. Brenda's told me this. Okay. She tells me this and she's starting to panic because we're getting closer to the due date and they keep like rejecting it for these reasons. And then she resubmits it cause it's got to go through like 10 people. Mm-hmm. It's not just one person. Mm-hmm. She keeps resubmitting it and like hurrying and scurrying and they're taking their time to reject it and send it back. They finally send it back a couple of days or like 24 hours before she has the baby. And they say, no, but we will let you go visit the baby once they're home for 3 hours. It was a morning that they allowed her. So once she had a C-section, so she was in the hospital for 4 days or something. They got home. Brenda was allowed to go spend a Saturday morning to visit the baby. That was it. That was what they compromised down to. You can't take all this time. Her big thing was, like all human beings with a heart, she wanted to go be with her in the hospital, be with her and see the baby. I mean, what grandmother I would want to do that if that was okay with the mother, and they wouldn't allow it. That was long-winded, but that's an example that needed to be told just now of, right, Aaron? I mean, I think I remember telling you that way back then that like she was allowed to take 3 hours off one Saturday morning. That was it.
Yeah. And, people who aren't familiar with Scientology might go, how can a religious group think family isn't important? Isn't that what religion is even usually about, is family and doing good and treating people well and kindness and all this kind of stuff? And it's like the Scientology's view is, what are you talking about? You've been around for 76 trillion years. You've had hundreds of billions of families. Your granddaughter's being born. You've probably had billions of grandchildren. Who gives a shit? Your daughter's graduating college. Who cares? The only thing you've never done in the last 76 trillion years is Scientology. Why would we let you take a break from Scientology to go tend to some stupid WOG things that aren't important? That's why. That's it's not like Scientologists hate family. It's just they think anything other than Scientology is unimportant.
Not important. When I was pregnant, I had a conversation with my biological father who disconnected from me, and we tried to do a chaplain's handling over the phone with him in Omaha, me in Kansas City, and Dan O'Connor in Kansas City. Dan was the chaplain on this 3-way call. Okay. I hadn't talked to my dad in years, and I said, I wish you cared more about me. I wish that you had, I was sobbing through this call. Okay. It was really hard for me to have it. I'm like 9 months pregnant at this point. And I said, I'm having a baby that won't even know his grandfather. You haven't been here for me. I wish you cared about me. And I'm bawling. And Dan goes, what do you want to tell him? And I said, I want you to know that I'm having a son and I'm going to be a mother. And like all these things are coming to a head for me. And like, you left me when I was 16. And my dad's words, he goes, why does that matter? He said, you've had billions of children. He said, you have been a mother billions of times. He said, what's important is here and now and saving this planet. And I remember looking at Michael, who I was married to at the time, just bawling. I was like, this isn't going to work for me. I can't have a relationship with this person.
Yeah.
And, one other real quick, I want to say one other thing. Doug was apparently at Flag doing something as a public, Michael's dad. Michael was like 12 years old and he got sick and he had to go home and leave. He was on the L's or something, which is a big auditing action that's only done at Flag. And he was trying to make a plane reservation to leave. And the guy who was trying to talk him out of leaving, Doug told me this, took him outside to walk around because, we want to get space, take a little bit of a walk. And he pointed to a tree and he said, do you see that tree, Doug? And Doug said, yes. And he said, count all the leaves on that tree. He said, that's how many children that you've had, even recently in the last few lifetimes. He was like, now I want you to put in perspective the auditing and what you're doing now. Is it important for you to go home to this one sick kid? Doug told me that story, and I was like, this is a great example, though, guys, of like, it just doesn't matter. It's not that they hate family, I think. It's just they don't even see it. Like, it's just not important. Not important at all. Your children are not important.
That's wog think, they would say. That's wog think.
Very wog think.
Yeah. All right, let's see. This is almost done. We got a couple minutes left here.
You're apologizing for them,
I mean,
Brenda. You're stuck there.
I did come back for Michaela's, when she was born. And, generally when someone dies, it's not a problem. So I should have just come.
Yeah, well, it probably was a financial thing too. And I don't want you to apologize because really you had no choice. You're there on their terms. You can't just leave today. If I were like, hey, Brenda, we're having a big get together for Thanksgiving. Come home for it. Then you can come right back. You couldn't. There's no fucking way. You don't get to leave. So you don't need to apologize. I mean, what are you apologizing for? You're not allowed to go. It's not your fault.
Well, I did write a CSW to go to Fiona's shower.
Oh, okay, that's the end.
That's the end of the call.
I really like how your approach. I like how your approach is not making her wrong for it, but putting it on the organization and seeing how she responds.
Well, I'm upset with her that and I like how she said just then, she said, generally, it's not a problem when there's a funeral. Well, 2 people I mentioned in this conversation died and you didn't come back for either one of them. So, it's generally
she's
not
also
a
just
problem.
full of shit. When my identical twin brother died, I wasn't going to be allowed to go to the funeral. I had to say no. I had to come up with excuses why it would create a problem with the other. I had to pretend like I didn't really want to go, but if I didn't go, the other family members would have a really bad opinion of Scientology, so they should let me go. So even for her to be like, it's not usually a problem is kind of like,
Yeah, right. And I did want to, I felt kind of guilty, and I still do here when she's like, well, and she's like, I'm sorry. That's something Scientologists do. I feel we take responsibility for everything. Like, it's her responsibility that she didn't come to my husband's funeral. And I truly meant that. It's not your fault. They wouldn't have let you anyway. She could have kicked and screamed and said, I need to go to this. They wouldn't have let her leave.
Right. Not from
They would
Flag.
have put her in ethics. No way.
Yeah.
They would have just given her an ethics program because you're making noise and you're being annoying. She wouldn't have been able to leave. So it does make me sad that she is such a robot and just such a trained monkey that she just can't. I think it kind of told us in that call. Do you agree, Aaron, that like there was no thinking for herself there?
Yeah. No, not at all. There just isn't. It's hard. It really is hard to explain the thought control that exists in groups like Scientology. It's easy to go, oh my God, these people must be stupid. Look, a lot of them are stupid just because a lot of human beings are stupid, but Scientologists by and large are not stupid people.
Not at all. No, I wouldn't say they're stupid at all. They're just super brainwashed. And the other thing I just want to say, because as a female, as a mother, I don't know, I can't speak for other people, but I want to think here, like what I was telling Brenda was kind of heartbreaking. I was like really saying to her, like, I don't know what we're going to do. This is hard for me. She only thought with her own weird, like, well, what about the way to happiness? What about TRs? It's like, I was really hoping for a maternal instinct to kick in and shut all of that down and go, oh my God, let's think here as moms. Like, what can we, like, just something that's non-Scientology. Like, why didn't your maternal, instead it was just well, we would work with him we know the tone scale. And it's just like, you can't even separate anything and just go, oh my God, like kick it into high gear and go, we need to help this kid and nothing. Do you see what I'm trying to say?
Totally.
Like, why didn't your instincts just as his grandmother and a mother kick in to go, something different. Let's think with something different other than, well, let's look at the love and honor your parents precept and the way to happiness and word clear that. What? Like, that's not going to help me. It's like somebody getting into a major car accident and being like, quick, somebody do a touch assist. They're bleeding out. What? That doesn't help. Or taking water to the people in hurricanes and then giving assist booklets.
Yeah. I mean, look, to a Scientologist, there's no problem that exists that, one, can't be handled with Scientology, or B, should ever be handled with something other than Scientology. And that's why they respond that way. That's like that Tom Cruise video where he goes, now, when you go driving by a car accident, as a Scientologist, it's not like anyone else because you're the only one who can help. People go, what the hell is he talking about? You can't call the paramedics? They're like, no. The paramedics might be able to fix your broken bone, but only a Scientologist has the tools. There are no tools outside of Scientology that are even helpful. There's only incorrect technology outside of Scientology. That's why Scientology is so important.
That's why Scientologists are so superior and better than you too, by the way. That's why they think they have way more power, because they know the secrets to everything, death, life, and how it all works. And nobody else knows that stuff. But that's exactly right. We could go on and on with examples there, but I think that's the part that I always had trouble with.
Well, and that's why even if you were to point out to a Scientologist, even if you were to say, but look how it destroyed L. Ron Hubbard's family. Look how it destroyed David Miscavige's family. Look how it destroyed Tom Cruise's family. Look how it's destroyed all so many families of other people They would go, but that's wog to think that somehow keeping a family together is important. If there's bad, evil people, you should be able to get rid of them. Like this idea that there's some sort of ideal in a family, like even pointing that out to them wouldn't get you anywhere. Because they're like, what do you mean it destroyed Tom Cruise's family? He got rid of his evil SP wives. Scientology helps Tom Cruise. And you're like, oh my God. You're like, there's no reason. Yeah. It's like,
it is so true, guys. They spin it like that. I mean, they're not even willing to look, though. That's the other thing. It makes me think of John Travolta when they're like, did you watch the Leah Remini show? And he's like, why would I? I don't want to, that's all false information. Why would I? I mean, they're not even willing to like take a look at like anything non-Scientology and go, is that true? Yeah. They're not. And it makes me think too, in the call just now, when you talk about this a lot, Aaron, like that is their fallback on, well, it's a new religion and it's changing and things are changing. And that makes me think of like a person that beats their spouse. Like he's put her in the hospital 10 times and almost decapitated her, but he's a lot better now. Like what? I mean, that's what that sounds like. Like it's better and it's changing and there's training revolutions. And why aren't you thinking that's a red flag? Like, why don't you see that?
Yeah. And it's also funny because to an outsider, the explanation that things are changing and improving, you could go, oh, well, that's good. That makes sense. The problem is that it's not L. Ron Hubbard, it's not supposed to be changing. It was supposed to be perfect. Like if you're a true believing Scientologist, this is what you're supposed to be believing. So even the explanation, well, David Miscavige is making it so much better. Well, wait, so you mean L. Ron Hubbard didn't get it as good as it was supposed to be? Like even there's somewhat of a cognitive dissonance that you can just casually explain to Scientologists. Oh, we got rid of all the bad people and now it's better. It's like, wait, but you had L. Ron Hubbard and then you had David Miscavige. At what point were these guys not aware of all the bad people?
True. But like, anyway. I took it as he's not changing it. Miscavige isn't changing it, is what I was told. It's all, you just said it. All the SPs altered the technology. But the question to that is, why, if LRH is OT 15, why didn't he know that? How did they get away with that? Seriously, it's like remember when Dianetics had to be reprinted because there were so many periods and semicolons or something?
Science of Survival, yeah.
Yeah. Why didn't he catch that? If I'm serious, he was supposed to be very, very powerful. I
know. Things like this is why the people say, how long will it take for Scientology to collapse? It's not going to accept the decline of Scientology is going to be steady, but I don't expect it to accelerate because the lowest hanging fruit of people who are going to leave because they can see all the problems, those are the ones who've already left. Right. So the ones who are there have kind of inculcated themselves against the very obvious glaring problems and contradictions that exist in the Scientology bubble. And they've sort of been proofed up against opening their eyes to those things.
But if you notice, Brenda did say in it, what did she say? I have had bad things happen to me too. And then in the Kathy one, Kathy says, I see things too, Reese, that are wrong. Remember that?
Yeah.
It just makes me think like they do see these red flags, but they've kind of just, like you said, like they're just, sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you. It just,
Well, no, I mean, you're right.
Crazy.
But that's the thing. It's not that they don't see them. It's that you now have this breed of Scientologist who does see all these things, right? And they've rationalized it away. Like it wasn't enough. Like never before has there been so much information so easily available about the horrible abusive policies and practices of Scientology. Like never before has the reputation of Scientology been worse amongst the public at large. And so that's what I'm saying. Like the low hanging fruit are the Scientologists who see the information that's out there and they go, oh, damn, that's true, isn't it? I can't support this anymore. And they leave. And the ones who are left are like, well, yeah, that's all true, but it sure is mean that they're all out there saying it because it's going to make it harder for us to clear the planet. And I guess we're just going to have to work harder now. And so I'm going to send more of my children to the Sea Org. I'm going to donate an extra $100,000. I'm going to do my bridge all over again because, gosh darn it, that's what it's going to take. And we're heroes. That's what heroes do.
Let me ask you a question. Did you read or see something on the internet that
Reese, can I remind
I've never heard you talk like this before.
Reese, do you remember why you said you wouldn't watch Leah Remini's TV show? No,
I was like, Brenda,
because you
nobody's ever asked me
her.
that.
You responded to her, but I wonder what she was going to say.
It's true.
I wonder what
to Tom Cruise
she was going to say.
I really wanted to Tom Cruise that. Nobody's ever asked me that before. You're crossing a line, and you know you are. Take responsibility for what you want to know. Yeah, but that's also their go-to. That's what they fall back onto. If you have anything bad to say, it can't possibly be true. So did you see something? Did somebody say something? It was so innocent. She was like, let me ask you a question.
Have you been reading the internet? Have you been reading that N theta from the SPs? Be like, yes, Brenda, I have.
And they seem to be truth telling. Yeah, that's so funny, you guys, but that is their go-to. I have been asked that. So if you barely have anything critical to say, they're like, well, where'd you hear that? Did you read it? Did somebody say something? Because then didn't they do this with Leah Remini's show? They put out a dead agent pack. They put out like a pack on everything and why it's untrue. That's what dead agent is they're trying to kill that bad PR.
Yeah.
Did you see something? Were you out in the world again using your eyeballs?
Are you on the internet? Oh man, if people are talking to if anyone's in a situation where they manage to get like a recruiter or someone who is trying to call me, I should put my stuff on Do Not Disturb, or someone's doing event call in and you get a phone call or someone's or whatever, just be like, hey, I heard Danny Masterson went to prison for raping some Scientologists, and just see what they say. Oh my
God.
Just see what they say. Or do something like, hey, did you hear Beck said he left Scientology? Now, technically, he said he was never in. But you go, hey, did you hear Beck left Scientology? What's up? What's up with that? And just see what they say about Beck. Hey, did you hear Laura Prepon left Scientology? What do you think about that? Or who else? Oh, did you hear that before Lisa Marie Presley died, she was trying to take down David Miscavige? What do you think about that? Like, try to get them to say out loud the stuff they only whisper to each other in the organizations. I mean, we need lots of phone calls like these.
That would be a nice phone call. I'd also like to know why we associated with SPs in the first place. Like I was thinking about Paul Haggis's movies. Why didn't they know? Wasn't one of his movies Tom Cruise in?
No.
It wasn't the movie with Jada Pinkett Smith and Tom Cruise, and he's like a hitman. That was an awesome Collateral.
That was a Michael Mann movie.
Oh, are you sure?
I'm very sure.
Oh, all right. I thought that was Paul Haggis. That was a pretty killer movie, actually.
Nope.
Okay, well, Jose Pena was in Crash.
Jose, can we get some service? Arriba!
Are you washing cars today?
Ma'am, I don't work here. I'm having dinner with my family, and my name's Michael. It's not Jose. You're racist.
It's terrible. It's terrible. But that's in a nutshell, guys. I'm glad we have this. Aaron, we've got more.
We have more. Should we go through some of these super chats?
We should.
Okay, Praxis Nexus. Question, not connected, but can you explain how you become an illegal pre-clear and what it is? Okay, very briefly. It's just if you've have any high security clearance, if you've worked for military intelligence or the CIA or the FBI, if you're a journalist, or if you have been under psychiatric care or on psychiatric medication for an extended period of time, you are not allowed to get auditing in this lifetime, although you can petition Senior CS International to do some entry-level auditing, and those petitions are usually approved. But that's what it means. Thank you for the question. Ken's channel says, no, we won't, except for TRs, tone scale, communication, auditing, and maybe some niacin.
I thought that too. Wasn't that funny when she was like, well, we would do these things. Okay.
Right. Barbara Mangano, tone scale won't work with me because I'm tone deaf.
I love Barb.
That is a good one. Dave Bowen. So nothing at Scientology stank except for L. Ron Hubbard's toilet mouth. Yes.
It was a double-edged sword. You couldn't smell good or bad.
And so in the Sea Org, they call it a canteen, the shop where you buy supplies. They would only sell Tom's unscented deodorant. And yeah, you cannot wear cologne. You cannot wear perfume. You cannot wear scented deodorant. You cannot use scented laundry detergent. And all because L. Ron Hubbard said, I think it was that there's just something stimulative about it. I could have that wrong. Was that it dulls the senses? I can't remember.
It dulls I think it dulls the senses, but Brenda and I used for years the same shampoo and she loved it. And it was not a problem in Kansas City. It was called Moroccan oil. Had a great smell. She got to this training program and she had to throw it in the trash. They wouldn't let her. She washed her hair with it. And then she had to go down to like the canteen and get the cheap crap that they use. And she was like, my hair is a mess and I hate it because I'm not allowed to use like even down to shampoos. Nope.
But it's funny because at Flag, there's a lot of trainees from Europe, and Europeans, not huge fans of deodorant and not always huge fans of showering. And the Europeans would usually, honestly, stink to high heaven. And so it's weird. You can't have scented products, but you're also not allowed to stink. So like they would get sent home to shower in the middle of the day sometimes. No offense to the Europeans. I'm just saying what happened.
Crazy.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
Let's see. Nancy Stitchin, as a never end, these calls have been priceless. To learn about Scientology is one thing. To hear a current Scientologist's logic validates and verifies all the learning.
Yes, Nancy.
Yeah. Scarlett Begonias, what is a long-term immense project or whatever AA Ron and Brenda would be doing now that she's kicked out of Flag and probably kicked off staff? So in Scientology, they have the policy volumes. It's called the Organization Executive Course. It's at least 7 fat, thick policy volumes. And then they have what's called the Flag Executive Briefing Course, which is 3 extra volumes of the other policies in different sequences. Miscavige has decided that nobody in the history of Scientology has ever properly understood these policy letters before. And that's one of the reasons Scientology is failing and the orgs aren't succeeding. So he is redoing all of the policy volumes and therefore retraining new command teams for every Scientology organization in the world. And this takes years. And the command teams aren't allowed to fire until all members of the command team are ready to fire. Fire means to go back home, finished with your training. And so what the problem is, most of these orgs don't have enough staff to be able to get enough of their staff who are qualified to go to Flag, because not just anyone's allowed to go to Flag for training. Flag's the name of the big Scientology organization in Clearwater, Florida. And so you have some people who've been at the program for years and are done with the program, but are still waiting for other members of their team to arrive and do the entire program.
That takes years.
That takes years.
And they can't go home because they have to go home as a team.
Now, the way these programs usually end up finishing is that they get the people there and they put the people through special fast versions of the check sheets. The check sheets is like the sequence of steps you have to do to finish a course. They'll usually figure out some way to just bullshit around everything because it's just not possible to do it the way Miscavige says it needs to be done. So they'll figure out some way to whenever Miscavige decides it's been long enough and we have to get everyone fired home in 6 months, they'll come up with some unusual solution and they'll end up firing home incomplete teams and stuff like that. But that's what it is. That's the immense project. That's the answer.
Aaron, just real quick, why do they make it so hard and people have to be gone for years? Why don't they allow them to do them at their own orgs? Why can't they just release this training for people to do it at their own organizations and then go home at night?
I mean, Miscavige's answer
It's a control issue.
Would be if you're trying to fix Chicago org, you can't train a new breed of executive by having them trained by people at Chicago org. And Miscavige's view on this would be only he can properly supervise the training. So only he and the people who've been personally trained by him would then supervise the training of these people. And that's the only way to make sure it can be done correctly. Only Miscavige can correctly do pretty much anything in Scientology. Only him or people trained by him. Like it's just ridiculous. It's part of the insanity. Like I don't know if that's how L. Ron Hubbard ran Training Evolutions, but all I know is that
Like a
that's
total
how
dictator.
Miscavige really sees like he's the only one who can properly do anything in Scientology. And that's why these evolutions have to occur at Flag and everyone has to be there. And that's why that's why for a while it was being reported inaccurately that Miscavige was now living in Clearwater, Florida. He doesn't really live anywhere, like he's a resident of California. But the reason he was spending so much time in Clearwater, Florida is because he's personally involved in overseeing this training evolution, So.
Yeah, it's just super controlled to me. It's just that's not a reason. That's his reason, but
yeah,
that's sad.
True. Anna Anderson Reese, I'm sorry, family is everything. Kate Friend, my Scientology theory. LRH built a belief system to basically spare him from dealing with the feelings of others, no matter what he does. For example, Jack Parsons, I ran off with your girlfriend and life savings, and now you're going to be a bummer about it. Yeah, it's true.
Yeah.
I agree with that.
I do too.
Stephanie Sandoval, Reese, I know you said Hux has been angry about not seeing Doug, but you feel his behavior has gotten better since not seeing him. Wonder if the undermining Doug was doing. Wonder if the undermining that Doug was doing had something to do with it.
Totally. I think so. Aaron thinks so. And his behavior is much better. Much better.
That's good. Kate Friend, these recordings are so interesting. Thank you, Reese, for making them and sharing.
Yeah, totally, Kate. I'm happy to share.
What is this one about? Your live last night, baloney and stripper poles. I was dying. What's going on with baloney and stripper poles?
It's not for you, Aaron. It's just,
okay,
I was like, Aaron's not going to be comfortable talking about that. John Sosofsky started it, just to be clear. I didn't do it.
Okay. Just Correct says, for the sake of humanity, we must destroy the Church of Scientology.
Well, that is true.
We at least need to take away their tax exempt status. Bruce Nielsen, in California, is it a criminal action to record a phone call without two-party permission? This is, it is a criminal action. Yes, this is in addition to any civil action that might be taken. Yeah, I mean, everyone consult their local laws. All I'm saying is Scientology will not, in my personal opinion, seek any civil or criminal remedies for something as low level as recording a phone call. I mean, that's just my personal opinion. I'm not advocating anyone to break the law. I'm just saying, you haven't seen Scientology actually sue anybody in 30 or 40 years. I know people seem to forget that, but it just happens to be true. Valentina Creel, 40 years might be an exaggeration, but at least 25 years, 20 years is good enough. Aaron, I never miss a video. Would it be worth it to explore children protection and HSE policies? What do you know what HSE means?
No.
Okay. HSE policies for organizations in the U.S. and what happens when they do not provide them for elderly staff members. No more tax exemption. Well, look, there's plenty of attention and heat on Scientology, civilly and criminally speaking, and I believe that is all going in the right direction, and I have a lot of confidence in the things that are happening right now. So thank you, Valentina. Tommy Scoville from the Lifeboat. Good evening, you all. Great stuff. Good to see you, Tommy. Casey Bataro. Reese, was your mother ever in Scientology?
Yes, she was in Scientology when she married my dad. He got her involved, and she remained in it till 1991. So she had been out for quite some time while I was still in.
Have you ever thought about having your mom come on your channel?
I have. She said she would do it. She's also my sister. I want her to tell her Scientology story, but they're in Nashville and she's an infant and it's just not time wise. But yeah, definitely I'd like to have them both on.
Awesome. Amy WC, what were you told about Catholics? All sensitive now. I don't know what the last part means. In Scientology, we were basically told all religions were bullshit. Like L. Ron Hubbard didn't necessarily pick on any particular religion. All religions are false, implanted, electronic creations from our psychiatrist, alien imprisoners, from the implant stations, and we've gone into detail on that in previous videos. But you know what's interesting? I saw something discussed in a video recently about there's many Scientologists who say that they're Jewish Scientologists, and this is one of the big exceptions in Scientology. Like, I've never known any Scientologists. We all know Scientologists who tell the press they lie about being Christian in Scientologists, but in Scientology, no one says they're Christian. The exception to this is Jewish Scientologists. They're culturally Jewish. So like in Scientology, if you're Jewish, you celebrate Hanukkah. And if you're not Jewish, you celebrate Christmas. It's got nothing to do with Jesus or Moses or a supreme being or anything. It's just, if you grew up in a Jewish family, you celebrate Hanukkah. If you didn't grow up in a Jewish family, you celebrate Christmas. And in Scientology, that's a thing. There are tons of not just Jewish Scientologists, but actually Israeli Jewish Scientologists. And that's not frowned upon in Scientology. It's not frowned upon to celebrate Christmas. It's not frowned upon to celebrate Hanukkah. What would be frowned upon is to go to a mass or a Sunday service in a Christian church, or to go to temple. Going to temple would be frowned upon. Saying you're Jewish or celebrating Hanukkah, not frowned upon. Saying you're Christian, that would be frowned upon, because that's just weird, because there's no such thing as being ethnically Christian. You can be ethnic or culturally. Do you agree with how I'm characterizing it?
Yeah, I totally agree with how you're. Yes.
Okay, cool. So yeah, there you go.
It's very rarely talked. There are really, for me, I knew a couple of Scientologists that for PR reasons, trying to get somebody in Scientology, I would hear them say like, well, we're Jewish Scientologists or we're Catholic Scientologists, but they really weren't. And deep in the church, like no one talked about that. They really weren't.
Exactly. Cruz was in Magnolia, a Haggis movie.
That's it.
Magnolia was a Paul Haggis movie? I'm
pretty sure, with Cameron Diaz. I swear Cruz was in a Paul Haggis movie.
Okay, well, no, it's Paul Thomas Anderson. Magnolia was Paul Thomas Anderson, and Collateral was Michael Mann. So I just looked it up. So
okay.
Yeah. The Pouting Pooch. I love that name. That's cute.
I did too. It's cute.
Susie Q. How much training can a person do? Well, that's interesting. There's auditor training, and then there's other Scientology courses training. So I guess there is a finite, mathematically speaking, there is a finite amount of training. But even if you don't do auditor training, there's other courses that Scientologists will call training. Technically in Scientology, you can go up to a class 12 auditor. Realistically speaking, a public Scientologist cannot go higher than class 8 auditor. But these days in Scientology, you can't go higher than class 5 auditor, because David Miscavige canceled the class 6 auditor course, which is called the St. Hill Special Briefing course. It doesn't exist right now. You cannot do it. You also can't even do the class 5 graduate auditor course. So anyway, it's a hard question to answer. But
I mean,
you can also redo training, so you can never run out of training.
Yes, to say they constantly are making you redo stuff. Have you ever met anyone in Scientology that like had all their training?
There's no such thing, really.
Right. I mean, there is auditing.
Just re-release a course. It'd be like, well, now you have to do it again.
Right. Auditing wise, though, I mean, OT8s, it's pretty much at the top. There's no more you can do.
You can get an unlimited amount of sec checking, though, even if you're OT8.
Sure, you can, and you should.
Janda Panda Treasures. I love that name too. Anything with panda. I love pandas. Who doesn't love pandas?
Who doesn't?
Even Scientologists love pandas.
Absolutely.
John Shostovsky restarted it with the pole dancing talk.
Sort of.
Agree to disagree, I guess. Oh,
John.
HSE, health and security policies.
I
Scientology's
wouldn't have
never
known
even
that.
heard of anything like that.
No.
Yeah. Okay. It will forever be known. It will not be known as the baloney incident. Oh my God. Reese, did you happen to see the chat that I did with Sterling and Mike Brown?
Yeah, I saw some of it, and somebody posted that little clip, that funny clip.
I have to go back and post those clips because they were just
It's
so
hilarious.
freaking funny.
Yes.
Guys, thanks for hanging out with us this evening. I think this was very much worth doing. And as we have more recordings ready to go, we'll keep doing more of these.
Jeff has a quick question. Do you think Kathy is being continuously sec checked? Aaron, I want you to answer that.
I do. I do. I think she probably got pulled off of OT7 just to be continuously sec checked, is my opinion. I mean, guys, we heard that Kathy had one of those big pods containers in her front yard. We were informed by one of her neighbors. So is Kathy moving? And how does a Scientologist living in Clearwater on OT7, how do they move? Unless she's just selling her house and relocating. Even then, a little weird. Like, what's
It's a little
the deal?
weird. It's a little weird with the Dan stuff too, like all of that going on at once.
That's
But I
right.
do have a question for you because you would probably know this. If she's on OT7, I know her husband Scott is on OT7 and her mother, Linda Nelson, lives with them as well. She's on OT7. Would they all be pulled off because of that?
Potentially, because how do you, in Scientology, one of the things that you get in trouble for is not being aware enough to know that someone in your immediate vicinity is up to no good. L. Ron Hubbard says that the only way you could be blind to something happening around you is if you're doing so many bad things yourself that you're creating your own blindness. So he says in an upstat, easy to live with and work with group, every individual group member is the one enforcing the mores of the group on each other. And if you're not doing that, it's because you're blinded by your own destructive acts. So, I mean, the fact that, yeah, so they could all be in some kind of trouble, potentially.
Also known as the policy in the ethics book, the man with a clean heart can't be hurt.
That's right.
Um,
That's right.
One thing before we sign off, guys, I'm almost to 12,000 subscribers. So if you're not subscribed to me, if you don't mind, if you hate me, don't subscribe. Or if I'm like nails on a chalkboard for you. But otherwise, if I'm tolerable and I only need like less than 200.
Here, I'll pull up your channel real quick just to show everybody.
I don't usually promote myself, but I'm kind of excited to get close to that number.
Here, let me pull it up.
But we want it for the right reasons. We want to do it for the right reasons.
What's the wrong reason?
People who hate me, come on, just to be hateful. I don't want them there.
A relatable
Yeah.
Reese.
Yeah. See, I'm close. Aaron, that's exciting.
Fantastic.
Yeah. I'm excited.
That's
about
great.
It. Yes.
Oh, you know what? Since we're having so much fun here right now, let me plug this, guys. We got about 3,500 people watching right now. In Clearwater, Florida, we have a war going on with Scientology. Council member Mark Bunker is an OG warrior exposing Scientology fraud and abuse. He is running for re-election, and Scientology is going to do anything they can to defeat him. The election is in 6 months. The website is markbunker2024.com. Right now, I've got about 1 million unique viewers per week. If each one of you gave me $10, I would be incredibly rich. But if a small fraction of you threw a few bucks to Mark Bunker's campaign, we are going to send out so many postcards to the Clearwater voters. Even the Scientologists are going to be voting for Mark Bunker. So
I love that guy. I
Mark
really
Bunker's
like
fantastic.
him. Yes,
He's
I
amazing.
love that guy.
He's amazing.
Vote for him.
So, and we've been the fundraising so far for his campaign has been incredibly successful. We're keeping it a secret. Oh, okay. His campaign has to file reports every month of how much money's been raised. We're waiting to announce at the end of the month. That's why I'm not giving daily updates. We want the competition to be shocked at how much we were able to raise in the first month. But once that report is filed, I'll do an update video on that. But anyway,
Nice.
the support from the SP Nation has been fantastic. And I know that only a small fraction of my subscribers watch any single one of my videos. So that's why I just repeat this message in as many videos as I can. And I will be for the next 6 months, guys, because it really is a huge, huge deal. So
That's right.
thank you.
True.
Thank you for all your help so far. And thank you for your continued support for Mark Bunker.
Totally.
All right. We
right.
did 90 minutes, Reese. How about that?
Yep. It's pretty fun. We'll do another one. I don't know if we'll do it tomorrow. We got to know. Aaron's the busy one, not me, but we'll do it. We'll release another one of these. Don't worry.
Thanks for hanging out with us, guys. We'll talk to you soon.
Bye.
Okay, if you want to see my rock and roll songs, click right on this guitar. And if you want to see a different one of my videos, oh, dancing for my love, then you could click right inside here. If you have subscribed or not, subscribe right here. Bye.